Joining us now for all the royal news is Andrew Eborn, UK barrister and broadcaster, and of course, president of Octopus TV. Andrew, it is wonderful to see you again. Let's start with
It's
our
always a delight to
favourite.
see you, Gabriella.
Let's start with Meghan Markle, everyone's favourite, of course. But it's interesting, less than 6 months after the world was finally given the chance to splash out on the perfect outfit, the Duchess of Sussex appears to have quietly closed her online style storefront. So it was only in March that she launched her Shop My profile, and today the page is now blank. What's happened here?
Which is extraordinary, isn't it? Meghan Markle's Marketplace Mystery. That's a new Netflix series. It's basically her My Shop front has disappeared. It used to have lots and lots of items. There they are listed. You can see all those glorious things. I'm sure you've got most of those in your wardrobe, Gabriella. But now the Shop My profile, what they call themselves, the world's leading content creators, according to their spiel, earn affiliate revenue from their shopping recommendations. And it is now blank. It says there's no collections found. Now, I think, I've got a little theory here. I reckon she's going to be launching her own, rather than having affiliates, she's going to turn around and have her own range of clothing. Because if you look at some of the items on there, there was a 1,450 Eula Johnson dress, which she wore for the show promo image, and that had a 1,000 person plus waiting list. So lots of people are going to buy that. She also had her La Lingla jeans. The New York label sold more than 500 pairs. So I reckon she did very, very well with this, but I think she's a crafty move. So you heard it here first. I reckon she's launching her own site.
All right, well, we'll watch this space. It's interesting. She's been, of course, promoting her new season of With Love, Meghan, and she shared some behind-the-scenes photos from filming of the second season, and she also uploaded photos of her children watching the show. Andrew, do we think the children really liked it? You know, no one else seemed to like this season. What do you think their thoughts were?
Yes, those are the two viewers, aren't they? Archie 6 and Lilibet 4. I love it. There they are. You've seen the whole audience in one. I love it. It's got to be good. What it is, we always love the behind the scenes stuff. That's the really good thing. You don't really see the children's faces, but you see this shock of red hair just to prove it. They are Harry's, and that's his little remnants of him. But there's been scathing reviews. We talked about this last time I joined your wonderful program. Scathing reviews of this series. People have called it intolerable and boring. So what she's trying to do now is obviously get the children involved, get that sympathy vote, and people love seeing pictures of the children. And I think that's from that sort of point of view, from Instagram, the audience will lap it up. But that is the audience of two.
That's absolutely correct. Look, let's talk about this story. I find this one fascinating, that a time capsule sealed by Princess Diana at Great Ormond Street Hospital in 1991 has been opened. Now, Andrew, what can you tell us? What did it reveal?
Well, I can tell you what it reveals, and it's glorious. It's Australia should be celebrating because Australia's queen, Kylie Minogue, was featured prominently.
Brilliant.
And they had, I know, we love it, don't we? And there's other 90s relics. And what it was, Princess Diana, she was very, very connected. She was president of Great Ormond Street Hospital. And in 1991, basically, she put this time capsule in there. It was supposed to be kept for, I guess, 100 years, but they decided to open it now because obviously they're doing redevelopment there. Inside that capsule, they had obviously the Kylie Minogue CD, which I know is in your music collection.
Of course.
But they also had you've got to play it every day. I love it. They also had a pocket TV. And when you look at it, you think, oh, how revolutionary it was at the stage. But obviously, it looks a bit old now. There was also other snapshots of 1990s life. They basically had all sorts of things. They had newspapers from that sort of side. They had a hologram of a snowflake, which at that stage was interesting. Now, we have a program over here called Blue Peter. And what happened in 1989, they had two children who won a competition. Yeah! And they basically could suggest the items to go into the time capsule. And Sylvia Fultz, I think she was 9 at the time, from Norwich. She chose this hologram of the snowflake. There was a solar-powered calculator, a British coins, and 5 tree seeds from Kew Gardens. And a chap called David Watson, 11 at the stage, he chose the wonderful Kylie Minogue CD, shows his immense taste in music. He also chose a sheet of recycled paper, a European passport, and that pocket television I mentioned.
Okay, yes, well, that Kylie Minogue CD, that is a great choice. Let's talk about Prince Harry, because there are conflicting reports that he may not be reuniting with his father, King Charles. For, of course, if he does, this will be the first time in nearly 2 years when he returns to the UK in a fortnight. So Harry is scheduled to be in London to attend the Well Child Awards. And of course, this will be his first visit to the UK since losing his legal battle to have taxpayer-funded police protection reinstated. So, Andrew, what are your thoughts? What are you hearing? Do you expect at this meeting between Prince Harry and his father, will it take place?
Well, I sincerely hope so. I've always said it'd be the wonderful reunion. I mentioned last time about Princess Diana. It's obviously the anniversary of her death on the 31st of August. And she would be devastated, firstly, to think that her children haven't got together, but also to think they're not really speaking to their father. And so Prince Harry, basically, he's coming here on September the 8th, a couple of days' time, for, as you say, the Well Child Awards. He's supported this charity for a long time. And people have suggested, although I haven't seen any official confirmation yet, that the prodigal prince will be back for the royal reckoning with King Charles. And this will be the first time, really, that they've got together properly for about 20 months. I think it was February last year that they got together. Obviously, since then, we've talked about King Charles's cancer diagnosis. We've also had that legal decision regarding Prince Harry's security. And what's going to happen, it's not automatic, because obviously he's not a working royal anymore, so it's not automatic. But if he gives notice and enough sort of time, then there will be appropriate protection there. And I'm sure that that has happened this time.
Okay. Now, a new book has revealed a blunt request made by the late Queen Elizabeth to former US President Barack Obama made at a state dinner. So, author Valentine Lowe revealed in the book Power and the Palace that during a state dinner in 2011, Queen Elizabeth decided that the Buckingham Palace banquet had gone on long enough. And the claim is that the Queen actually asked British Finance Minister at the time to tell Barack Obama that it is time to go to bed. Look, is this true? What do you make of this?
Oh, it's glorious. This is Her Majesty all over. And what a wonderful lady she was. We've all been at those dinner parties where the guests just refuse to leave. And it was past midnight. This particular story, Valentine Lowe's brilliant Power in the Palace, all sorts of revelations, but some of which I've heard before. But basically, it was a state dinner in 2011, and Her Majesty was brilliant at having these state dinners, but they can drag on. And apparently, it was after midnight, and she turned to George Osborne, who was the Chancellor of the Exchequer at that stage, and said, "Will you tell President Obama it's time to go to bed?" And so they worked on that sort of basis, and I'm sure that was true, and they worked on that sort of things. But George Osborne, he recalls that actually he didn't want to go over to President Obama, but what happened? He had a particular aide, the Queen's private secretary, said, "Don't worry, we're handling the situation." So an interesting revelation. It won't be the first time that's happened, and I had the joy of meeting Her Majesty on a few occasions, and also Prince Philip, they were the brilliant double act. And I was introduced to Her Majesty and said, "This is Andrew Eborn. He's a barrister and also a magician," because I perform as well on that sort of basis. And Her Majesty said, "Oh, how nice." And Prince Philip came up to me, same introduction, but he sort of looked at me and said, "Well, I bet that's good for pulling the birds," is what he said. He was notoriously good for those little quips, and they were also the perfect double act. But Her Majesty, she wouldn't like the fact that people spoke about her private discussions. She always wanted to keep that secret, in the same way she sort of kept her private discussions about politics. She had lots of very strong views, but the idea was that the monarch's always above politics, so shouldn't be quoting things publicly.
Well, it's interesting because also in this Valentine Lowe book, it uncovers a secret relationship between the monarchy and the government. So, and also reveals what the Queen Elizabeth thought around Brexit. What can you tell us?
Well, she basically didn't want to. She said that she thought that we shouldn't be leaving the EU. She thought it's better the devil you know. She's had those conversations with a number of ministers. Again, as I say, the Queen was above politics and wouldn't want those views publicly known. The vote went against her wishes, and we voted here in the UK for Brexit. And it's very interesting because in the Queen's speech, when they have basically at the opening of every parliament, they turn around and the Queen reads reads out, this is what my parliament's going to do. And obviously they had the relevant law to do with leaving the EU. What I loved about it, the wonderful optics, if you look back at the picture, during that particular speech, she wore a glorious floral blue hat with little yellow petals in it as well, which so resembled the EU flag that you could basically see these were her real views. And I think that wonderful sense of humor was coming through there. But she was definitely not for leaving the EU. That seems to be confirming the reports. Even though she didn't say it publicly, a lot of people turned around and reported that those were her views.
Finally, before I let you go, Prince William and Princess Catherine's first official outing since their appearance at Wimbledon back in July has been confirmed. They're set to visit the Natural History Museum, of which the Princess is a patron. What's going to happen here?
Well, what's going to happen September the 4th? So tomorrow over here in the UK, it's going to be, as you say, their first official outing since Wimbledon. Wimbledon's a few months ago, 7 months ago on that sort of basis. Or sorry, 7 weeks ago, not 7 months, 7 weeks ago. And what's going to happen? She's going to go to the Natural History Museum. It is their first official outing. They're going to engage with children, apparently, about biodiversity projects and so on and so forth. And it's going to be a return to public duties. People adore, particularly Princess Catherine. They're going to be absolutely delighted. I'm sure the papers and other media will be swamped with images of that particular engagement.
Absolutely. Andrew Eborn, UK barrister and broadcaster. It is brilliant to speak to you as always. Thank you so much for joining us.
A real pleasure, Gabriella. Looking forward to the next time.